Oh, hello there. I didn't see ya. Today, our Group 7, is going to be talking to you about the Populist Party. Now, the Populist Party, also known as the People's Party, started in 1891 and dismantled in 1908. Now, you may be thinking to yourself sometimes, what am I going to be doing with this history stuff? Well, if you didn't know, the Populist Party back in 1891, which started over trying to take over the Wall Street elite, is very related to the Occupy Wall Street protests going on now. Now, the Populists drove the Progressive era to reform in the early 1900s, and they sought out to dismantle the centralized power of Wall Street, and which is very related to what is going on now. So, without further ado, I give you Group 7. When you hear the word populist, you may not know anything about the word. And if you guess it's something to do with the word population, then you're wrong. The Populist or People's Party was a political organization which ran from 1891 to 1908. The party was made up of a majority of white cotton and wheat farmers, ranging from southern states like North Carolina, Alabama, Texas, to northern states like Nebraska and Kansas. They believed in an agrarian value system, which believed that the rural society was superior to urban society. This type of belief spurred on a hostility towards banks, railroads, and the urban elite. The reason why the Populists formed was because of the industrialization of the farming industry. With new machinery and ways of processing crops, prices of products had dropped, which farmers who did not have more advanced technology couldn't keep up. The populist movement also engaged the energies of thousands of reform-minded women from farm and labor backgrounds, some like Mary Elizabeth Lease, a former homesteader and one of the first female lawyers in Kansas, became prominent organizers, campaigners, and strategists. Lease was famous for her speeches urging farmers to raise less corn and more hay, but never actually uttered those words because it would be considered inappropriate for a woman in public. Lease declared, "We fought England for our liberty and put chains on 4 million blacks. We wiped out slavery and began a system of white wage slavery worse than the first." During the 1890s, referendums in Colorado and Idaho approved extending the vote to women, while in Kansas and California, the proposal went down in defeat. Populists in all the states endorsed women's suffrage. They also believed in big business had made the people of America into wage slaves, declaring, "Wall Street owns the country. It is no longer a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, but a government Wall Street, by Wall Street, and for Wall Street. The great common people are slaves and monopoly is their master." Lease was heavily criticized, but that had never stopped her from doing what she felt was right.
The Populist movement. It was the coalition of U.S. agrarian farmers in the Midwest and South in the 1890s. The movement developed from farmers' alliances formed in the 1880s in reaction to falling crop prices, poor credit facilities, and the leaders organized the Populists or the People's Party, which advocated a variety of measures to help farmers. They also demanded an increase in the circulating currency, a graduated income tax, government ownership of the railroads, a tariff for revenue only, and the direct election of the U.S. senators. The party's presidential candidate in 1892, James B. Weaver, received more than 1 billion votes. Many state and local populist candidates were elected in the Midwest. In 1896, the Populists joined with the Democratic Party to support the Free Silver movement and the unsuccessful presidential candidacy of William Jennings Bryan. The movement declined thereafter, though some of its causes were later embraced by the Progressive Party. The Farmers' Alliances were the largest citizens' movement of the 19th century, where they sought to remedy their conditions. They were founded in Texas late 1870s. then later spread to 43 states by 1890. To spread their message, they published numerous pamphlets on political and economic questions, established more than 1,000 local newspapers, and sent traveling speakers throughout rural America. They were hardly a backward-looking movement because they embraced the modern technologies that made large-scale cooperative enterprise possible, which were railroads, telegraph, and national market, while looking to the federal government to regulate them in the public interest.
What were the rises and falls of populism? So one of the rises was the McKinley Tariff in 1890, which was considered a very high tariff. It particularly hurt the western and southern farmers who sold their harvest on unprotected markets, and it forced them to buy expensive and manufactured goods. What they did to help protest the tariff was the farmers helped to vote the Republicans out of the House of Representatives in the 1890s. Another rise of populism was the quasi-political party. That one merged in the late 1800s with Democrats, and they formed the Populist Party. One of the falls of populism was basically McKinley killed the populist's dream of free silver in the 1900s when he signed the Gold Standard Act, which was the act that stabilized the value of the dollar to 1 ounce of gold. And after that, he also signed the Dingley Tariff, which set overall tariff rates at about 45%.
We will fight them to the uttermost, having behind us the producing masses of this nation and the world, supported by the commercial interests, the laboring interests, and the toilers everywhere. We will answer their demand for a gold standard by saying to them, you shall not press down upon the brow of labor this crown of thorns. You shall not crucify mankind upon a cross of gold.
You shall not press down on the brow of labor this crown of thorns. You shall not crucify mankind upon a cross of gold. These were the famous words from the Democratic candidate named William Jennings Bryan on July 9, 1896. This speech given by Bryan wanted to warrant farmers and people affected by industrialization free coinage of silver. This allowed anyone who had uncoined silver to turn it into the U.S. Mint and receive free silver coins, with the equivalent of silver coins. This free silver would allow more money flow and help farmers pay off debts caused by lowering prices of crops and higher land prices named by American banks. In the election of 1896, the Democratic candidate William Jennings Bryan teamed up with populist Thomas E. Watson, but lost by a landslide because of the industrializing Republican Party featuring William McKinley. Team Bryan and Watson lost by 600,000 votes. In 1904, Watson attempted to run for presidency, but again lost. Afterwards, the Populist Party fell into its demise after waning support and final pushes of industrialization.